We are rolling. All right, you guys, welcome to the CabaretFest Q&A. Coming into the final little, we're in the last stretch here of this week.
Yeah.
So, you all know who these people are, but I'm going to pass the mic to each one more time and let them tell you who they are. You guys were here this morning. I gave my spiel, which is my least favorite part of this job, is telling everybody who I am and what I've done. So let's do that real quickly. Karen Mason.
Right, I have to tell us what I've done.
We can just say hello.
Hi, I'm Karen Mason.
I want to be able to see your face on the
Yes.
video.
Oh, my hair looks horrible.
Nobody cares.
Wear
Nobody
it backwards.
cares.
Wear it backwards, you know. All right, I'm taking it off and it looks horrible. Yeah, you're just saying that. Hi, I'm Karen Mason. I've been in show business since 1977 professionally, and so the list is very freaking long. But I'm happy to be here and you know, sharing with all of you. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you fearless people.
That was very good. Hi, I'm Bridget Bardot, and I model bathing suits. And no, I'm Angela Beccari, and I've been doing that. I think my very first job was 69. I think that's what it was. And I've been doing this for a long time. Many shows throughout all over the country and having a blast. And now I moved back to Rhode Island and I started doing a little teaching, still performing here and there, and so loving this. Finding this has been a gift for me. I absolutely love doing this and helping others. You know, because when you travel so much, you learn on the road. You don't go to school, you just learn from experience. And I think that's the best, you know, knowledge you could ever gain is from experience on the road. So anything I've learned, I hope I've instilled in some of you during our classes. And I'm just excited to be with all my peeps. Here you go.
Hi kids, I'm Natalie Douglas, and I met most of you. I've been doing this. I've been singing since I was 4, and my first job really was when I was 5 on a local TV show in LA. And I sang a number, and then I was supposed to be briefly interviewed, and I got the microphone and I wouldn't give it back. And you can get away with that when you're 5. But I'm very lucky. I love what I do, and I do a lot of traveling and teaching, and both of those fill me up with joy. And I do a lot of different shows. And I guess today we're gonna answer any questions you all might have, and talk about any, like, creating shows or booking shows or whatever interests you. We're here to be a resource for you today. So if there's something you want to know, ask away.
Cool. Let me do it this way because I think the cord's not.
Yeah, I don't want to. Okay.
You don't want to strangle.
Exactly.
That's
That would be bad.
Appreciate that.
That would suck.
I'm still so happy that I know Bridget Bardot.
Who knew?
Well, I'm Sidney Meyer, and I have worked in cabaret since the mid-'70s, and I've been a booking manager for the last 40 years. I have occasionally done some theater and commercials and radio and things like that. And I just want to say, probably for all of you, that I was at each of these 3 ladies' classes with this lady, and they were just fabulous.
Tracy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, Tracy Stark.
I am Tracy Stark. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's funny because, you know, we've been working together for the past 5 days, and I feel like we already know each other. I play the piano.
Magnificently.
And what else? What else do you want to know?
That's good. That's
Okay,
good. Just a
thank
little intro.
you.
Let me pass that to Michael.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I think we'll go this way.
Oh.
No, other way.
No, other way.
Okay. My bad.
Hi everyone, my name is Michael Stever. I'm this expedition's resident videographer and filmmaker and cameraman and man behind the lens, so this is odd. But not really, because I was actually an actor, singer, dancer for almost 20 years and was really, really fortunate and did some great shows and got to work with some fantastic people and do some national tours, a couple shows at Paper Mill, a sit down at West Side Story in Berlin with Alan Johnson. So I was really, really very fortunate. And I was a journalism, filmmaking, communications major in college, which I just kind of put by the wayside for a while, and then just kind of revisited about 20 years into being a show ho. And I just think wearing many hats is very, very important. So yeah, I'm just loving this life, my second life, I guess, in this lifetime anyway. You know, filming and very happy to be here with you all. And this is my third year here, so this is pretty awesome.
Okay, so since Patricia's not here and I'm going to be moderating, and I apologize if someone raises their hand, I can't remember your name. Just raise your hand and let me know who you have a question for, and I will give that person the mic and they can answer. Or if it's a general question, I'll pass the mic among all of us. So who would like to get started? Who has a question for our esteemed panel? Michael.
Was there one or two people that you saw early in your careers that you said, that's what I want to do?
Anybody want to answer that question? Natalie.
Well, I'm happy to answer that question because I have a couple of, yes, when I was 4 years old, my parents took me to see the Count Basie Orchestra, and the second act opened with Joe Williams in front of the stage. The orchestra was, the first act was just the orchestra playing instrumentals. Second act opened with Joe in front of the curtain, the orchestra behind the curtain, and he began to sing the verse to Something to Live For. And the entire room froze, and you could feel everyone lean forward, you know, and he held us like, and I thought, and I looked at my mom and I said, I want to do that.
Oh, sweet.
And so that was the first major influence. And then when I first moved to New York in 1988, my dear friend, who was the manager at the piano bar where I worked, took me to see my first cabaret shows in New York City. And those first two shows were Sidney Meyer and Karen Mason. I saw Sidney Meyer at Panache Encore. I saw Karen Mason at Don't Tell Mama. And I went, ooh.
That is so awesome.
Oh. Yeah, magnificent. I was in love. It was just brilliant work, completely honest. That's when I learned that what you had to be on stage was honest. And then you could get away with anything. You could do anything. You could say anything. You could sing anything.
Yeah.
If you told the truth. And I was just blown away. And Danny has left us many years ago, but I often thank him for that because it was really instructive. Watching people work is really, really good for you. Still, to this day. I love it. And I think it, God bless you, you can never stop doing it. You can never think, oh, I don't have more to learn from, I know what I'm doing now. I mean, hopefully you do after a number of years, but you still need to learn. And watching people work is really instructive.
Anybody else want to answer that question? Miss Picard?
Well,
Ms.
let me think.
Bardot to you.
Miss Bardot.
I don't know why that came into my head.
Kiss your kid.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so going way back to what I said when I first started. When I was a little girl, I was infatuated with Connie Francis, and I used to sing her, and the house. My mother would go crazy, please stop, but I just couldn't. And many years later, I think I was telling the story the other day. Nicholas was singing in Florida. We were doing the Colony Room. He was doing it, and I was his little special guest. So a friend of mine, Charlie Colella, who was a master music arranger, hit writer, he was with Connie, and he brought her into the show to see Nicholas. So I don't know she's coming. Then all of a sudden I hear she's there. I thought I was going to die. So anyway, she was sitting like right there, like right where you are. And Nicholas calls me up on the stage to sing, and I said, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? My idol's sitting in front of me. But anyway, I sang, and I put it across my song as best I could, and she stood up. And that was I said, okay, I'm good. I passed. So we got friendly. But when I first was starting, though, way back, I was in New York, and I had gone to this agency called William Morris. Do you remember that? And I got how I got signed, but I did, and they introduced me to Billy Rizzo. Do you know that name?
Yeah.
He was booking all the Playboy clubs. If you have to, throughout the country. And I went in front of him and auditioned a little bit, and he booked me in every Playboy club throughout the country, and I was just traveling. I took my 2 little girls with me because I was their mother, and they had to be with me. So we'd travel all over, but I would do shows. You do shows in this room, then you go to that room, then you go to that room. So you do about 4 or 5 shows a night in all the different rooms and different audiences, and I'll tell you, you learn. To handle a Playboy Club audience and you're not a bunny, it was nice. But anyways, and that's how I started, and I just did show after show, and I'll tell you, I learned an awful lot, and to this day, like I said.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Did you
Yeah.
want to go?
I
Okay.
just-
Sydney's is good.
I just want to add that Angela's grandson, if you don't know, is Nicholas King, who is an incredibly accomplished New York cabaret artist, and who is going to be here tonight as well.
He's only got probably 2 and a half hours more to drive. He was up in the mountains doing Villaroma last night, so that's about 6-7 hour ride here.
Wow.
I said, boy, you really want to come? He said, I wouldn't miss it.
You.
I know, right?
I was playing cabaret shows before I knew what they were. Like I was just kind of hired to play for people, and I had no idea what to do or how to shape a show or what to tell people. I was just kind of playing. So it was a learn as you go kind of thing. My first as an audience member was Wesla Whitfield, and I know, but I saw her, and I had this. And I was in my early 20s. I just graduated from college, and I had this revelation of, oh, you can do anything you want with a song. It was that, oh, you can go off the page and actually say something that doesn't have to be exactly the way. I went home that night, and the heavens opened, and there was fear, and there was joy, and there was, I can't even tell you, it was literally the heavens opened, because I was like, okay, now I have to decide what it is I want to say, or it's up to me. I can do what I want. That was my experience with the first cabaret show that I had.
Anybody else? Sydney?
This is okay. Well, I was very fortunate that my parents were open to taking us children and things to theater and clubs and things, and so I had seen Broadway shows and theater and loved it and everything, but the first person who really had an effect on me in that way that I was just transfixed was watching television, and no one put me down in front of it and said, you have to like this or something, and it was someone I had seen many times as a younger person and always enjoyed, but did not hold me the way she did as an adult, and that was Judy Garland. And the moment I saw her, everything changed. And through those years, I was very fortunate to have seen so many, and it was interesting to me to make this distinction, although as a child I didn't have words for it. Oh, and Natalie, I'm so happy when you saw me, I didn't discourage you from this business. How could I live with myself? But anyway, but it was like, as much as I liked actors and all that, the people that really mesmerized me were what I would call entertainers, and I got to see them all live. People like Peggy Lee and Ethel Merman and Josephine Baker and Marlene Dietrich and many, Sammy Davis Jr., a million of them, Lena Horne, and they were all great. But I must say, to this minute, and I know it might seem very textbook cliche, yet it's the truth. No one affected me like Judy Garland. And seeing her in person
And touching her.
and meeting her was, for me, like meeting E.T. She was absolutely radioactive. And for those of you who have not had the privilege of seeing her in person, I mean, seeing her on television and film and even on recordings, as powerful and gripping as that is, nothing can compare to seeing any of these people live and with no degree of separation. They all have a radioactive quality, but I have to say to this minute, Judy Garland was life-changing for me, now and forever.
One of my first professional theater gigs was doing Best Little Whorehouse in Texas at Sacramento Music Circus. And once you've had your ass pinched by Juliet Prowse, I'd say I'd never watched it again, but you know, don't want to go there.
All right. Who else has a question?
You know, we're told to record ourselves and listen. It's so painful. Is there no other way? and how do you get over that? Because, you know, I'm not sure anything sounds good to your ears that when you record of yourself.
Lots of reverb.
Who was it who said yesterday, fall in love with your own voice? You can start.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
That's what I said in my class. We have to fall in love with our voices. We have to learn them. We have to have an affair with them. Whatever we can do, we need to do that. And that's the only way we're going to progress, because the more we learn our voices, and one of the things I did mention is recording them. I hate it on a recorder too. For some reason, it just isn't a true sound, but we can hear what's not really good. We can hear it. And we'll say, even our phrasing, no matter what it is, we'll say, oh, I'm not going to do that again. And I always feel it's one of the best lessons we could ever have, but you've got to learn your voice.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting, because I still have trouble listening to myself. Falling in love with your voice, to me, then you lose a critical eye. And I think it's important to have but you've incorporated that.
You haven't. You'll hear the critic.
Yeah.
You'll hear critic.
Yeah, so I have the critical eye, and I like a lot of it, but,
Yeah, but
you know, it's still, there's still a part of me.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
The critical part is you're gonna weed out the
Yeah,
part you don't like when you learn your voice.
yeah.
You learn it and then you love it.
But you do
Yeah.
have to listen, because
Yeah.
it's serious. I mean, you record your voice lessons, you record, you know, all of those things. And I just recently, actually, in August, I'm doing a show at Birdland, as a matter of fact. August and still counting. 30 and still counting. Because it's 30 years since Christeni and I have been working together. And I was listening, I found the tape of our first time working together at the Russian Tea Room in August of 1992. And it's fascinating to listen. It's like what I thought I was achieving was all of this energy and being very glib and being very, and it's borderline annoying. How chatty I am. It's like, shut up. And so I have learned that over the years. So that is where I did not listen then. I just thought I was adorable. And I didn't listen, and now to listen to it 30 years later is really fascinating. But that's also how you learn. You know, it's by doing all of the time and talking. that was a show that Chris still kids me about, because I for some reason, I'm not quite sure. I think there were people from Jerome Robbins Broadway, which I was still doing, in the audience, and I started talking about the washer-dryer combination I had purchased with my first paycheck from Jerome Robbins. And it's like I did maybe 5 minutes on Sears and my Lady Kenmore. And Chris was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So you learn not to do that. So,
My cord is going to drive me crazy, but I'm going to figure it out.
I don't even need that.
Well, as far as
Oh.
hearing yourself, I mean, can you imagine what I went through? Oh my stars, I had the exact opposite reaction of Karen. I was not thinking this was adorable at all. But I have come to learn, and I tell performers in every way, to anything they can do to record their shows, video, you know, just in the one dimension of sound, anything, because it's the truth. And as painful as it might be, and believe me, my eyes roll all the time when I see myself or hear myself, but it's what everyone else is seeing.
Right.
So unless you want to live in a permanent state of denial, I think I'm sorry that you didn't record your show, you didn't video your show last night. It was terrific. And I mean, you should see that. And what I'm saying is it's a great learning tool. Besides being something you can use as a demo or a souvenir, it's the best learning tool, and it's the truth.
I like that.
Yeah, I hate watching myself,
Oh.
and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
To watch.
I think watching is
I know, but my voice is one thing, me, so.
Oh.
The only caveat I would add to that, though, is that because when I work sometimes, one of the things I say to students is, do not fall in love with your sound. And by that, I don't mean that you can't love your work, you should. But I don't want to watch you on stage just listening to your voice. Like, you know, because you have to be here for us. You have to be here for the audience. And if we're here for you, because we're just a mirror to reflect back to you how awesome you are and how great you sound, that is bullshit. You should forgive the expression. That is not a performance. That is not a relationship. That is just you jacking off, okay? So do that in the privacy of your room or wherever you enjoy, the park, I don't care. But not on stage, and certainly don't charge people a cover to come watch you do it. You know, unless you're really good at it. I mean, it can't be about just the sound. It can't, in that way, don't fall in love with your voice. You know, don't exist only to make those sounds. There has to be more that you're sharing with the audience than just, yeah, I sound great when I sing this note, you know? If you do sound great singing this note, we'll totally hear it. We'll get it. You don't have to do it for us. Do something else for us. Give us something, another piece of you, you know, something about your story and something about your life. So I'm not a big fan of recording. I mean, while you're working. I think recording the show when it's done and looking back before you do it the next time, great. But if you're doing, like back in the old days when we used to do 88s, you know, 4 Fridays in a row or 5 Fridays in a row, I would not look at the videotape, even if I videoed every show, until the last show was done. Because I don't want to let what I'm seeing and hearing get in the way of trying to communicate with you and not thinking about me. You know, there's a weird line for me
No, I
But-
gotta fix it.
Yeah. No, you don't have to fix
No.
anything. No, I
No,
really.
no.
When I say that, I am so in tune with you. I am so right online. When I say fall in love with your voice, if you learn your voice and you fall in love with it, you're gonna give your best. But you're not gonna be giving it just for you. Of course not. You're gonna be giving it for your audience. So when you learn it, you're gonna wanna give them the best sound you have. And the only way you're gonna know that is to really learn your voice and like it. If you don't like it, then why are you doing it? That's how I feel about it. So the best you're gonna give your audience, you can't just take it for yourself. You'll just be boring. But you wanna give your best all the time. And how do you do that? Is how we're saying it. You gotta like your voice, learn your voice, and you have to love it. Otherwise, why are we doing this? But not to the point where you're not gonna give it, turn yourself off and give it to the audience. I get that. I should explain that even better when I say that. No, but see, this is how we all learn from one another. I love this. When we're doing something, we want to be more specific, so that we get the real point across. Now, when I say that again the next time, I'm going to get the real point across.
I just want to add parenthetically, just with the cost of what voice lessons and rehearsal cost, and when you're in a voice lesson and a rehearsal, your focus is such that you don't always absorb everything that was taught to you. I get to have that lesson twice. I get double my money because I get to listen to it again. And then maybe 3 months from now, I revisit that voice lesson and listen to it again. So my $120 that I paid for that voice lesson is now for 4 or 5 lessons. And that rehearsal that I had, that I rented the studio space and paid an accompanist for, I now have that chunk to go back to and back to and back to whenever it feels right. So I'm a big supporter of recording and replaying.
I am too, and for a different reason. For me, it's about the creation of the work, and when you're doing an arrangement. And I often am, when I work with somebody and we're collaborating and we do something where we try something one way and then we try it another way, and one person likes one thing and the other person likes the other, you know, we go back to our separate places and listen to it. You know, usually things become clear when you listen back to it, I find. Not always. Sometimes there's just a you like this and I like this, and basically I try to make what they like sound good. Yeah. I never fight. I don't usually fight with people about arrangements, but you know. But for me, it's the recording thing is free from the psychological liking or something. For me, I use it as a tool. Yeah.
For those of you who weren't here last night for Meg Flather's show, Tracy's arrangements of those Rodgers and Harmer I heard those songs in a way I've never ever heard them before, and that was because of this great work that those two women did. Yeah, Jim.
Speaking of video recording, I want to do more singing, and one tool for that would be to have a website with videos embedded in it. What are some of the considerations, some of the do's and don'ts, and if I record a performance with other live musicians?
I can answer. First of all, you should, if you're going to have it filmed, you should be able to. When I film for my clients, I always like to, when doable, film with a really high quality shotgun ambient microphone. So that is what I'm actually using with my camera. And then I have a separate unit called a Zoom, which looks like a taser, which you can patch into the board. And I always will secure the board recordings as a secondary process and then merge them later in one context or another if that's an option. And then you're doubly covered. The ambient microphone is great because so many times, you know, at these venues, it's very, very tricky, and there's no guarantees on getting a great board recording, especially if it's not a multi-track recording, which is a whole different process and really doesn't happen usually at most of these venues unless it's pre-arranged. And there's always going to be an extra fee for that, but it's something that always has to be discussed, always before every show, if you want to do that. if you want good recordings through the board of your musicians, but otherwise you can be covered with a shotgun microphone.
Anybody
Anybody
else?
What?
Natalie?
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, are you talking about licensing for the material that you record? Like what happens once you put it up and you want streaming to happen? Or are you talking about the process of videoing?
More the posting content in order to get seen.
Okay. Posting content on YouTube or wherever, that, whichever one, as long as you do not put ads on it, you do not owe licensing. If you make money from a song you didn't write, so if you were to put advertising on your YouTube video, then you would be responsible for licensing. You would have to go through Harry Fox and pay for the use of that song. But as long as you do not do that, you won't have to pay any licensing. What will probably happen, depending on the song, is that it will be flagged by the copywriter. And all that means is that you'll get a notification on your YouTube channel that says this material, Dolly Parton in particular is very good at finding her material. Jolene is flagged. And all they do is just put a little thing that runs along the bottom that you don't own this, that they still own this. That's it. It doesn't interfere with anyone watching it. It doesn't mean that people can't download it, or embed it. In terms of paying people who were, like if you're using footage from a show, you paid them when they played your show. So unless you make money off of the video of it, you do not owe them more money. But you need to make that explicit with them. If, however, you sell that DVD, you owe them more money. That is pretty much the way it works. Mostly in New York, we're not using like local 802 contracts. That's the musicians union in New York for our cabaret shows.
The only place that does that is Feinstein.
Yeah, Feinstein's is not anymore. I mean,
It's not a
54.
union house?
54 isn't. No, it was when it was at the Regency.
No, it is.
Yeah,
Really?
because we
Yeah.
had to,
I've been
sign
paying
stuff.
them.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Because
a union house.
oh, you know what? I've never done a solo show there.
Yeah.
You're right.
And what
Um,
about when they take songs down on you?
They usually don't. Unless you have your own advertising on it. YouTube will take something down if you try to get away with making money off of it, and you didn't pay the proper things. But
You can't make money on YouTube unless you have a certain number of subscribers and you actually get a certain number of watch hours, which is like a whole new level of complexity.
yeah.
Depending on how much time you have, you can either really champion for or not. But I think YouTube is probably the best venue to upload your content and embed it onto a website for unlimited length materials and things like that. Whereas with Vimeo, you have to have a paid account if you want to upload bigger files, and it just gets a little more complicated. So.
Cool. Who else has a question for our esteemed panel? Pamela.
All of you seem to have had the wonderful opportunities of growing up as performers in an era where there were many, many opportunities, many abilities to make connections, etc., and get the experience that is so essential. Things have changed, certainly. New York is still New York, and you have lots more there than we do in the Boston area. So I'm in the Boston area, and we have one club where one can put on shows or go to open mics. That is it. So for people like me, who loves to sing and realizes how many more years do I have left that I can sing, and that's true. So what would you suggest that we do to, besides open our own club?
We've lost a lot of clubs in New York. You mentioned
Yeah, we
88s.
have.
Boy,
Yeah.
oh boy, oh boy.
I love
I'm going to
that
let the
space, yeah.
venue meister answer this
Yeah,
question if he
seriously.
can.
Well, I certainly understand what it is for a club to close. Most every club most every, May I introduce Max Factor? Every club I ever went to, or in some cases ran, my resume looks like an obituary of New York nightclubs. Look, I feel to reiterate what Angela said and everyone else one way or another, everything you do can come under the heading of experience. And whether it's at the Playboy Club and you're going from room to room at the Playboy Mansion, or whether it's the shady rest home and you're singing for all the people there, it all adds. So yes, you don't have to open your own club, but there are many possibilities. I have seen people make salons at homes and they move from one to another, like once a month. I have seen people do things in their church basements. I have seen so many people who were so enterprising in these, God forgive me, these little towns they live in that don't even seem like they have civilization. They will go to a restaurant and say, oh, you have a back room that's not being used, or could I bring my pianist in, or we can set up a thing and I'll just work for tips and things, well, give it a chance, like once a week for 4 weeks. Then they wind up being there 5 nights a week and making a fortune. So you can be very enterprising and creative and set up shop anywhere with your songs.
I'll give just Ed wants to say something. Or you could have a guest house in Provincetown and turn a room into the Palm Room.
I just want to, I guess, brag a little, but it's relevant to Sydney's point. I moved into my building 12 years ago, and we happened to have two concert grand pianos in the lobby, and we paid $50,000 through condo fees to restore the Steinway. We just had our 78th concert, honoring Mike Renzi, by the way. Angela was supposed to be there with him, and Pamela sang the concert before that. So I think there really are ways to do that. I never thought I'd be running a concert series, but it's actually not a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but you do need to find a place.
Hey.
Miss
Yeah, I'm
Barbell?
going to give it. I just wanted to add to what Sydney said and to you, Pamela, because I'll use Nicholas as an example because he was 15, 16, and he had already graduated high school, and his mother said, well, you gotta get a job. And we were talking, and I said, well, you can either go bag groceries, or you can get yourself a little sound system and start working nursing homes. And he just looked at me, and I said, yep, we'll get you a sound system and some tracks, and you can go work some nursing homes. To this day, he's still doing these retirement homes. Like he'll have, in between all his big jobs, like he's going to Vegas, he's coming here, he's got like 3 jobs in between, maybe in Norwalk, probably in wherever he is near the city. He comes back to Rhode Island and still does some of these special rooms. He makes himself a good little amount of money, but the experience is the bottom line. Because I told the story when he was really little, my mom was in the nursing home, and he used to come and he'd go, the kid just constantly did shows no matter where he was, in the street, no matter where he was. So he went into the day room where they put all the patients in there, and he would do his whole entire Eliza show, whatever show he put together, and he would run back down to the room where I was with my mother, and he'd go, Nani, nobody's clapping. I said, honey, they can't. He goes, and he goes, oh, okay, and he runs back and finished the show. So I never forgot that. So to this day, he's still doing it, because I said to him, when you do those shows, you're always at Carnegie Hall. Remember, everywhere you sing, you're at Carnegie Hall, because in that environment, wherever you are, somebody is listening, and the experience that you're getting to win that audience over was the hardest thing. That's why when he was saying, no matter what, you could be doing a ton of jobs, because once you get it, you'll be singing all the time. The experience you get is unending. Oh, and now, Eden.
Hey, I'll talk loud.
That's right, what's on your mind?
Thank you all very much, really helpful. You know, I'm a singer, I'm a voice teacher, I'm a piano player. I'm in the same boat, right, with all of you. I have a live stream show for exactly this reason. I started it in January of 2021 because the venues were closed. But it still happens. It works really well for the intimacy of cabaret because it's a singer and a pianist. So just like McCassie did Piano Bar Live all throughout the pandemic, right? Radetzky is still doing Stars in the House. So online is still a viable way to perform. And I'm glad that you started. Everybody has to basically do their own thing. You will end up producing your own things. It's okay. You'll get good at it. And my dad is 80 years old and he plays in nursing homes all the time. Loves it. Right?
It's a great point because particularly with the pandemic, it's opened a whole new avenue for us to communicate. I'm a techno-Luddite and that all terrifies me. But maybe there's somebody on the panel who wants to speak to how they're able to use live stream to get their message out. Miss Mays.
Yeah, well, I was a Luddite also before the pandemic, and I started getting bored, and because we were in lockdown, and also self-tapes for auditions.
All new.
All new.
My self-tape partner is sitting right there. We do at least 2 or 3 a month.
Yeah, and in lockdown, I didn't have the luxury of, a partner. My husband tried to read with me, but he was trying so hard, and it made me nervous, and so it just didn't work out quite. So, but I had to learn how lights and all of that. So I watched a couple of things, and I thought, okay, I watched a SAG how to do self-tapes because I thought, okay, I want some more television and film auditions. So I watched that thing, and then I thought, okay, to test it, I'm going to start doing little Facebook shows. So every Thursday at 5:30, I started with just one, and I started doing with a ring light and my phone until then I realized that as my phone ran out of power halfway through the show, that I had to do something else. So you just keep learning and learning and learning. And God love Google. You can find out anything. Oh my God, and YouTube, the amount of videos up there of how to do self-tapes is incredible. Self-tapes, the next step is a little show, it's not that complicated. It's just that you have to have more equipment than you thought you would really ever need in your life. And so I've got now, all of these lights. We have a little corner in the living room with all of the lights, and I've gotten quite good now at doing my own. I act with myself. Yeah, because I couldn't get somebody to come over and act with me. So what I would do is I would record the other lines, and then make sure I could fit myself in the middle. I mean, it's just hysterical what you come up with, but it's really fun. And the feedback from doing a little 5:30 show for a year on Facebook and YouTube was lovely. It was lovely.
Did you accompany yourself, or what did you do?
No, from I have a lot of CDs, for me, a lot of CDs, not, huge amounts, but, and so I have the tracks.
So you just sing with the tracks?
Yeah, my husband is the record producer, and
that
so
helps.
it does help. And so he gave me the TV tracks for it, and I've used them a couple of times on television. But now I just have all 8 CDs and TV tracks, and it's great. So I could, pick. And then at the end of that, I started, I started running out of things I could use, and so Chris Denny, my MD, told me about this thing called Jam Kazam.
Yes.
Wow! What a gift from God!
Talk about what we did.
Oh my God, it's
What is it?
amazing. Jam Kazam is an app that it allows you, because it allows you to not have that delay when you're rehearsing with someone, or singing with someone, or jamming with someone, or talking with someone. And Chris plays piano, and I sing, and it's in real time. There's no delay. And so,
is he in the room with you? No, he's out.
no, he was at home. It was lockdown. Yeah.
There's there's a little bit of there's a bunch of things you need to get. You can't just start with Jam Kazam. You need an interface. You need I mean,
I didn't use an interface.
You don't.
Nope. I used a Ethernet line.
Yeah.
And
Right, you
I
need
have my
Ethernet.
microphone from the voiceover stuff, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you?
The piano players need
Didn't
it.
you have to
Yeah,
use an
Chris has
interface?
an interface. Yeah.
I have to say that,
Oh, yes.
No, it was the interface. I just had.
Oh, yeah.
I'll wait till Angela. I just had a comment.
oh, no, I was gonna say, because of the virtual shows.
I mean, amazing. For the whole year and a half, Mike Renzi and Nicholas in my house did the virtual shows, and they got tons of people watching. And the best part about it is you can watch it again later. Like, say you didn't tune in at 7, you can watch it later, days later, months later. It's still on there. I mean, the publicity is amazing.
Yeah.
And the other young man that I managed, Billy Gilman, he used to get thousands of people like within the first 10 minutes on there. So it's a major way to
Yeah,
publicize
it
yourself.
is.
And I had all the little lights and
The
all
lights,
that.
I know,
And we
softboxes.
and we
Who
yeah,
knew you
I
needed
know.
them?
And we had the little and I have the piano in my house, so Mike played live.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Right. So and Billy used tracks. So there's so many ways you can do them.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, so a lot of the local performers here in Provincetown did exactly that, started in April and May of the pandemic time, and created they call it Virtual Piano Bar Network, and Mike Packasey was part of that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
just amazing, and even for small local artists, to have 50, 60 people be able to come together. Now, everybody's now competing with them, life is
Right.
back in.
It was much better at the beginning
And
when
then
nobody was
COVID.
doing it.
It was great during COVID.
Yeah.
But if you're not talking
it
about
stopped,
weekly,
no.
if you're talking about, and then you can get all the people that know you and would come to a show. I mean, I think it can still work in certain
Oh,
circumstances.
yeah,
Sure.
to
Yeah.
publicize it on Facebook that you're gonna be doing one. You don't do it all the time, it'd be special.
Yeah.
Right, like that.
In terms of using social media and getting eyes on your project, one thing to keep in mind is that if all you do is promote your projects, it becomes a wash and people don't pay as much attention as they do if you have an actual presence on social media. So by that I mean, don't just talk about the shows you're doing, whether they're virtual or live. Talk about your shoes and Supreme Court decisions that enrage you. Talk about your life. Talk about yourself. Yeah. Talk about yourself as a human being, because people will find we find the people that we enjoy. Whether it's TikTok or Insta or Venmo, not Venmo, Vimeo. We find the people we like, and you start following those people, and it's usually not because they said, oh, come see me next Thursday at, Crown and Anchor or Don't Tell Mama, or it's not that makes you follow somebody. What makes you follow somebody is, a funny video they do, or an angry video they do, or a funny story they tell, So be a human on social media. Don't be an ad, And that, of course, means you have to curate what you show, what you tell. It isn't your diary and you're not 12. So don't, well, no, some people get a little oh my God, the guy sitting next to me on the subway was so annoying. I don't care. It is entertainment. It's still entertainment. So if you would talk about it in your show, the washer dryer is perfectly acceptable for but if you wouldn't talk about it in your show, then maybe not. But it's a great way to let people know who you are, and then they can choose. Oh wait, I really like Jeff. I want to know more about. Wait, he's doing a show? Yes, I'll definitely go. But if all I see is ads for Jeff, I don't know who you are yet. So how do I know if I want to come see you? So.
Yeah, that is that's such great advice.
That is great advice, and it's a challenge for all of us to figure out what we're going to put out there and how we're going to.
Raise your
I see
hand.
many hands.
My hand only goes so high.
All right, so why don't you put down your hand and open your mouth.
it really, everything that you're saying all makes sense. For those of you that know or don't know and seen what I do and what I don't do, if I had to make a living at cabaret, well, I wouldn't have my summer house at the beach. But when COVID hit and we're all sitting at home, I play nursing homes, I play dementia units, I play condos, libraries, civic centers. I've played in lobbies of office buildings and senior homes. And when COVID hit, everything was shut down. You can't get near them, you can't get in them. The JCCs, the YMCA, any senior activity center. And people are calling me, how do you do this? I said, well, you get on the phone, you call. And then I was getting calls from all the places I've been playing for the past 20 years. We have holiday shows that we'd like to do virtually, but we have no money to pay you. And I said, that's not a problem, I will do it, you know, in kind, because for the past 5 years, I've been playing a specific place 3, 4, 5 times a year. You don't get paid $1 million, but when you add it up, I'd rather have the volume and the more frequency of it. So I started doing that. And all of a sudden, over the Christmas holidays, I was doing Christmas shows virtually, Hanukkah shows. I was picked up on PBS. I was picked up on private networks. Did you do? Because I was giving of myself, just because I wanted to give back to do it. You know, did I love doing virtual? It's kind of tough singing into a laptop, but I learned. I did set up a green screen, did it. Could never look at myself, but you know what? I bought a new car. I'm just telling you, it's not as hard as everybody thinks it is.
No.
It's just you have to focus on what the real is and what you want to, you know, I know Karen Mason, I know everybody sitting up there. And when you talk about your life and you talk it virtually, it works 100,000 times better. You think that I'm crazy than when you're doing it live. Because when you get up close to that screen and you're looking at those 200 faces, you know what you're gonna see? People who are not sleeping, they're awake, even though they're in wheelchairs or recliners, and they're smiling, laughing, and when you're singing and entertaining, they're mouthing the words of everything you do.
Yeah, so true.
And if that isn't the greatest gift,
Could you see them, Warren?
I had to get close and put my glasses on.
No, but I mean, there was
Yes.
a reciprocal.
Yes, because the
Really?
agreement was that any organization, you know, any place, you know what happens when for you guys that have never done it, when you're shooting virtually, the line without a interface, don't even bother. And it's a cheap piece of equipment to buy, but the line stretches. And the signal strength that they're picking up from you is then they get it. It could be 100 miles away, and they're shooting it out to 300 people. And the more they do it, right, Michael, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. But the picture was perfect, and I could see these people. I would say to them, "Let me get real close. I can't imagine what these eyes must have looked like." You know, but even when I do it live, someone came to me. I'm sorry to go. Came to me, was a neurologist at one of the assisted living. What you're doing for the residents, would you come to the lockdown floor? I said, I'm afraid to, I don't know what to do. They said, do what you do. I never saw 50 people come out of a cave that haven't been in one, in their mind. And I've been doing it 3 and 4 times a week ever since, live.
That's fantastic.
Because
Bravo.
So do it, just do it.
Do it. Anybody else?
I think we got you.
This isn't more so much a question, but more of a comment, which is what we're getting to, which is sort of why we're all singing. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of us in the room aren't going to make a living out of singing. And to carry on this thought, with the nursing homes and things, I've sung in Alzheimer's units, and it's a known fact that music is very therapeutic for Alzheimer's patients, and it's been proven that it can really have a very dramatic healing effect on Alzheimer's patients. And in fact, totally nonverbal Alzheimer's patients can suddenly become verbal. And the way they become verbal is they start to sing the lyrics of songs.
Look at Tony Bennett.
And
Oh,
they
that was
literally,
amazing.
and I've seen it happen. And it really is the most wonderful feeling to be singing a song and have somebody who's not opened their mouth and said a word for a year to suddenly start singing the lyrics to the song that you're singing. And I'll tell you, that's worth more than any money in the world. So, you know, it's sort of a philosophy of why you're doing this. You know, why are you singing? And if it's not for making all the money in the world or not for doing it for a living, you know, that's the kind of alternative reward you can get. And there is no more appreciative audience than that kind of an audience.
It's the truth. I'm sorry.
Ethel, that's amazing. Thank
I'm
you so
sorry.
much for that.
I'm
That's
sorry,
amazing.
but the best quick short story, I was at North Shore University Hospital, which I know very well, and we were doing the Alzheimer's unit, and I went into the rooms. This old guy, he was 90, he was talking, they said he hasn't spoken in 6 months, and I was making him laugh, and when I left, I said, well, I hope you get better. And as I walked through the door, he said to me, after your jokes, I hope you get better too. Exactly what he said.
There's a beautiful video on YouTube, I don't know if you've seen it, of a paralyzed elderly ballerina, ballet dancer, watching herself and the performance, and they do them side by side, and she watches herself as a young person dancing, and the arms start to go. And it's a pathway into something quite magnificent. Joe, what's on your mind?
Well, I'll just ask it from here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm so interested in all of your life experience. Now, could you come up with what was the biggest kind of egg you ever laid as a performer? And then you saw another performer do like a bad
I blocked
choice.
it out, Joe. I
Oh,
have
no,
no
come on.
idea. I'm going to think on that one and let someone else address that.
A lot of
I know.
possibilities.
Go for it. That is so easy, because it was just a few months ago. I was doing this series at Birdland that I started in 2017 called Tributes, and I did a different show each month, a different tribute to a different artist. So I started with Sammy Davis Jr., Nina Simone, Linda Ronstadt, Shirley Bassey, Cher, Joni Mitchell, Elvis, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Nicks, So that continued up until lockdown. And then I came back to Birdland for the first time with a brand new tribute show in November this past year. And right before that, I had a bunch of travel. So I was traveling and trying to learn, it was a James Taylor show. I was trying to learn the lyrics to all these songs. And refresh my memory about the things that I already knew, that Taylor. And getting up there for the first time after having done all of these virtual shows and performed all over the place. I was very lucky. My first job out of lockdown came February 2021. So I had been working and traveling, but I hadn't done my home stage in New York at Birdland, the place where I've done 80 shows. And something happened to me that night, and my focus was for shit. And so I had 3 major, like, train wreck lyric, I don't know what I'm singing. Which song is this? Like, just, stop, sorry, I'll start again. It was horrifying, I wanted to throw up. But I survived it. And after the show, the majority of the comments I got were from people saying, oh my God, that was amazing. That was so cool. We got to see her not perfect. I'm like, oh my God, it took that? Like, but I got such encouraging comments. I got 2 nasty emails from people who were in the audience who went home and found my website and wrote very mean things to me. But most people were incredibly supportive. And it made me face something that I have theorized about for a long time, which is if you work a lot, if you say yes to everything, if you create opportunities for yourself so that you sing a lot, no matter how big the disaster that happens in any given one night, you can bounce back because it's just one night. If you set up yourself to do one show a year, and God forbid something happens that night, it'll take you a year to get over it because you have put so much weight on that one performance that it has to go really well, you know. But if you will allow yourself to sing nursing homes, churches, street corners, wherever and whenever, then you will survive. You know, it was hard, but I survived. And I made myself do shows at Birdland. I was just there Monday night, and I did one last month. Just get back up on the horse, you know. But it was all about focus and not having done it in a minute, and my brain just fought me in terms of being in the now, you know. And if we're not in the now, we can't do the work.
Huge, huge.
Well, let them come up and try to do what you.
Anybody else have a comment or question for somebody? Tim.
Many years ago, one of the things I learned in acting was that I was instructed that the actor or the singer must convince themselves of the importance and the urgency of what is being sung or what is in the scene and things like that. And Natalie, this goes back to the honesty factor. It is a real concrete feeling that we can find in ourselves. And it may seem to be elusive at times, but it's something that we need to, I feel like we really have to work on. Am I being honest with myself? And how I feel about the lyrics and the circumstances.
You know, there's this word that you almost hate to use now because it's become so cliche, but authenticity. You know, what that means for each of us to be on stage and to be authentic. I think it's something that we strive for not only on stage but in our lives till the day that we die. Does anybody else want to respond to what Tim has to say?
I'm not sure what being honest with yourself means.
Well, when I think about that, when I just finished a monologue class and I'm working on the monologue and I'm going, okay, here's the words on the page, and are they not really meaning anything to me? And it's getting to that point where it's the words become something that you would express yourselves within, you know, the imaginary circumstances. Are they really real to me? And also it applies to lyrics, it applies to, so it's a level of honesty.
I think you're talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think you are.
Oh.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, it's you know, I think, there is, I don't think you have to be so, I don't think it's about being honest with yourself. Because that sounds outside of, you know, when you're doing a character, which is what monologue work really is, for the most part, unless you wrote it and it's autobiographical, you're playing a character, right?
Not the way I was taught is, as an actor, it's me living in those imaginary circumstances.
Well, yeah, but it's a character. It's not you. I can play Medea, but I'm not Medea.
You're not?
You know, yeah. Right now. Man, I'm Medea at 4:30. You know what I mean? I think you're like making it harder for yourself.
I think it is hard. It is hard.
Oh, I'm not saying it's easy, but I think what you do is you play a character, and what you do is try to find yourself within that character. You never lose who you are, ever.
Right.
Austin Pendleton says that there's the performer, there's like, 3 or 4 different levels of performing. There's the performer, which is the front that everybody sees. there's the actor, which is the person who is playing the
character,
role.
yeah.
And then there's you personally, who is the basis of all of it. So it's how do you find that balance? So it's not just a performer, it's not just the role, that it's that amalgam of all three. And that's the trick, is to find that balance. When I played Joanne in Company a long time ago in Boston, as a matter of fact, at the Huntington. And every time I started to approach the role, I heard people say around me, that's the role that Elaine Stritch made her famous. I am so screwed. And so, but all of that is, I thought, how do I relate to this woman who's a ladies who lunch, she's wealthy, she's living in a different satellite than me. The anger is how I keyed into it. The anger of people saying, this is how Elaine Stritch, well, there's a part of me that's going, well, fuck you, because I'm going to be really good at this. And that's how I keyed in, by finding that personal emotion
Yes.
that I could relate to that character that was not me.
Yeah.
And that's how you find, and then through that lens, I mean, it's what David was talking about, you have the intention, and then you have the secret. And I think all of those play into that kind of, finding a character. When we do cabaret, I mean, the type of cabaret that we all do is personal expressions of who we are. And it's not necessarily playing characters. So it's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a heightened who we are.
Yeah.
As opposed to, Medea at 4:30.
So do you find like you have a switch that when you start performance as an actor?
Oh yeah,
You have a switch that goes boop, on, you're on, now you're that character.
I've been told that in the mirror, and I love putting on my own makeup for just that reason, because I think it's that transformation that suddenly I become, and it's not like it's not like you're gonna go, oh my God, who is that woman? But it's just that I know I can go out there and I had a manager who once said to me, make it a party. If you go out there and decide it's a party, they will see it's a party. Yeah, and so I try to live by that little mantra. Yeah, sure, yes, yes, Mike.
From a little more psychological standpoint, and it kind of also reverts to what Pamela was asking earlier, I just think that there's nothing more important in the business than wearing many hats and knowing how important wearing many hats is, and that no one hat is actually more important than the other hat. And then and then believing that you actually have a contribution to make to your industry of choice. And I think that if you really, really believe that and follow that, opportunities open themselves up.
Next question.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
I just really wanted to just add on to what everyone was saying. I really appreciate all the comments that you made. During this summer, I guess, last summer I had met Eden when we were taking a class at St. Louis Cabaret over Zoom. And it was just such a wonderful way to get back into singing, and this is not my full-time job, but I'm starting to own this part of me that's an artist too, and wants to contribute, and loves live performance, and really wants to keep that going. So it was great. I just wanted to add on, Eden spent 4 hours with me on a Saturday explaining to me how to do this from Rhode Island, and I got my interface thing and my light, and we did that, and it was a conversation like the one that you talked about, Natalie. We were kidding around. It wasn't about this and that, and why don't you sing that song that you sang? Blah blah blah. And it was a great back and forth, and I'm not usually on Facebook because I'm a therapist, right? So I'm always trying to be undercover, But all of a sudden, I get these
these texts from people at work going, "Oh my God, are you on Facebook? Like, what's going on? I didn't know you sang, you know." But and it's also kind of related. I took my son, who's 23, to see Marilyn May at Feinstein's last September, because I just bought all these tickets. I needed to get to New York, and I'm with him, and he turns to me and goes, "Oh my God, Mom, this is fantastic. She's fucking great." Is this vaudeville? She's vaudeville.
Don't repeat that to her.
No, but he goes, "Mom, she's the real deal." And it was great because I guess the reason I'm saying all that is like, start where you are. Help each other out as singers. Talk about your lives. Talk about why we're doing this. And the commonality is, you know, great lyrics, being able to have live performance, and that it's dangerous because it's so, you know, you just don't know how it's gonna go. But you're being real. I mean, one time, my first cabaret I did in 2008, my neighbors from Somerville, Massachusetts, and it's a very tight neighborhood, and I lived there for 20 years, and they wouldn't let me in, right? So one of them says, "Mary Catherine's singing, so let's go and see what this is about," because they all thought it was goofy. And they all came out and they went, "Oh my God, I never saw anything like that in my entire life. What is this?" We loved it. It was live. I never thought of that. So anyway, my point is live performance, art, and that we can all be artists, whether we're doing it all the time or not. Let's help each other keep that energy up and out there.
Yeah, I want to add, one of the things that's quite amazing is we are really living in an artistic renaissance. You know, anybody can make art. When I was young in the business, you couldn't make a movie on your phone. The film had to go be to the dailies and they come up, you know, you couldn't take a picture without developing it, you know. Nowadays, you can write a movie, you can have a Broadway show come off of YouTube. So the good news is the opportunities are open to all of us. The bad news is it's harder to make a living. But it's easier to make art. But if you make the art just might be a pathway that one day you're gonna make a living. It's like, make the weird art. You know the quote from the Tonys?
Yeah.
Make the weird art because you never know in 10 years it could be winning you a Tony Award. Anybody else want to comment? Or what's the next question? Yes.
I have it's kind of a general question. I'm curious to know how you choose the material you're going to perform in your shows.
That's a great question. For me, it starts with songs that I want to sing, and then I figure out how they fit together to tell the story that I want to tell. And somehow it all kind of works out. I start rehearsing songs, and all of a sudden, wait a minute. There are the songs, and there's the show, you know? So it's all starting from my choice of songs that I want.
What's your feeling when there's one of the songs that you chose that kind of falls flat?
Choose another song.
Do you mean falls flat in terms of in rehearsal?
It didn't get a good reaction from the
Oh,
audience.
that doesn't,
That's different.
that's
That's
different.
flaws.
I thought you were talking whether it fits into the theme of your show.
No. If
You mean you do a performance
if you
and-
think you put it into your show and it's a good, and it works, you have in your own head that this is gonna be great, they all kind of fit in the cabaret show that you're doing, and then all of a sudden you say, I know this is gonna be a great one, and people just kind of don't.
Make sure there's a few people in the audience who you really love and trust and know your work, and ask them why it's not working, and
Yeah.
maybe try to figure out how to make it work. And if you can't make it work, the song's not for you, cut it from
Well,
the show.
yeah, I've done
Does that sound right?
I've done
No.
that, yeah, but, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. But really, we aren't supposed to perform our work to get a certain response from the audience.
But we're
We
entertainers.
perform to get a response.
Right.
And sometimes the response is no thank you. You know, I mean, sometimes
Good point.
what they're telling you is, I don't know that I like this moment. But that doesn't mean the moment doesn't work. That doesn't mean it isn't right for your show. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I can't remember yesterday, brain. But Monday I did a Juneteenth show. So in the middle of that show, I sang a Dylan song called "The Death of Emmett Till." I don't know if that song isn't supposed to make people clap. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? It is hard and it is ugly. And what I want it to do is make you really uncomfortable. I don't want you to go, oh, that was awful, but thank God that's over. I don't want you to get to the end of that song and pat yourself on the back for being the good kind of white person who would never do that. That's not what I want. I want you to think about your life and think about, have I ever been even kind of like that person? Have I ever seen one of those people and not said no? I want you to be unsettled. So I'm not listening to the audience response on that number like, oh, are they clapping and cheering? That's not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Think about what the song does. Think about what it is you want that song to do in the moment. Not whether or not they're just jumping to their feet and going, you're so awesome. I think if you're doing your job well, at the end of the show, they'll jump up and say, oh, that was awesome. Or they'll come to you after, if they don't jump, and say, my God, I love that show. But moment to moment in the show, they aren't supposed to just stroke your ego. That's not what they're there for. We're here to make them feel. When I come watch you, I want you to make me feel things. And if you do that, I'll think you're great. Like you achieve the same result at the end. But make me feel things. So maybe you'll make me feel something I don't love in that moment. But I will love you for making me feel it.
Yeah. I agree with everything she's saying, and I know that when you're doing zillions of shows like her and I both have, and you're with all different audiences every moment, the thing is that I can feel it. I honestly feel, I can sense when something's not really going over. And I say, well, I'm going to try it again, and maybe it's me. But then after a while, I start to know that the song's just not working for me. So if it's not working for me, I'm not going to be able to make it work for them. And I just picked the wrong song, so I change it. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
And then I've noticed also that you sing a song to one audience and it's different.
Oh, yes,
Different for
absolutely.
another audience.
Oh,
They love it or
definitely.
some, are they
Oh,
really
yeah.
into it or
But
something.
we get the sense, we
Yeah,
can feel it.
but that's an
We
important
know.
point that you know, I want them to feel something. That's
Yeah.
that's the best point, best message.
A practical, logistical question. What techniques and methods have you embraced to help you learn lyrics?
This actually came up in the workshop this morning. I like the repetition exercise where you say the first word, round, round like, round like, round like a circle, round like a circle in, and I get through the whole song, and by the time I get to the end of the song, if I can do that, first of all, it isolates each word, so you have to focus on each word, and second of all, it drills it in. That's what I do. Some people type, some people write, but I go through the whole song, one word, adding a word each time until I can do the whole thing like that, even if it takes 40 minutes to get through the song.
I take brevity.
I have another also very long but worth it technique, which is, and this is after you've done all your work in your, you know, the monologue work and stuff like that, just specifically for memorization. Start the song in randomly. So you have the lyrics in front of you, you like point randomly, and just keep doing it randomly, because that helps in a way, and this has nothing to do with the character work or anything, this is specifically for memorization. That helps if you stop someplace, if you forget, you know, and you're on stage, you don't have to go back to the beginning. I've been in numerous shows where people stop and they're like, okay, I have to start, okay, round like a circle in a wheel, the 3 points, yeah, especially if you're doing a patter song and you're right at the end, you know. So anyway, but starting in a random place and just keep going, and you know, last verse, third verse, the second verse. Anyway, that is really helpful. But it does take a long time. It is a lot of work.
One thing. We found out this morning in the workshop when we were monologuing the songs that many of you are quite capable of singing your songs, but when you're speaking the words, you got lost and you forgot what you were doing. That's a sign that you haven't done the homework enough. You know, it's not, the words don't just exist in the terms of the melody, they have to exist in your mind as spoken words as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, I usually, when I feel like I have a fairly close capacity to have memorized it, I like to just memorize. Yeah, you know, if it makes sense to me, it's easy. If it's more like a kid's show where it's lists, that takes a longer. I think that's fascinating, although that is a long ass way.
Yeah, right.
Wow, but I get that probably works really great. Yeah, if I write it, it's closer to my brain, and I also like to say it to myself in the mirror. I just say the lyrics to myself in the mirror, and it's like looking in someone's eyes, which is what usually throws me off when I'm singing to an audience and I'm going, gee, that person really looks attractive. And it's like, oh, I'm already gone. All right, I have no idea where I am. So that helps
For
me a
me, it's
little
like
bit.
that exercise you did in drama school. I packed my mother's suitcase and I brought an apple. And then you
Yes,
have to
that's right,
repeat
yeah.
it. Yeah, so I do that with my lyrics. And if I can get the whole list, babe, I know my shit. That's what I would do.
Sometimes some of us are gifted with a photogenic mind.
Everybody.
Do you have that?
I do, and that helps me. So what I do is I write it out. I'll write it out, and I see it, and I look at it. But then, in case my photogenic mind fails, I always have the very first word in big bold letters at the start of each line. And if I see that word, the rest of the line does come to me.
Yeah.
You do that too?
That's exactly how I
Yeah.
do it, the big bold.
The big bold letters, and I'll make like the one song I'm singing. I get so mixed up, so it has the word some and then will, and if I get those two words, I'm all set. So in my mind, I'm going southwest. And that's where I see the S
Are you
and I
talking
see
about
the
a visual
W.
aid, or are you talking
Yep,
about
it's like a visual in
your head?
my head.
Yeah.
So I take a photogenic picture of that, and that'll stick to me, so I see it. I do that, all the big bold letters.
And everybody has a different mind,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
some people learn visually, some people learn.
But I'll forget
orally.
anyway, so.
Yeah, I am a big fan of writing. I have several thousand notebooks all over my house, spiral notebooks, and I write out lyrics. Because I can do it anywhere. I can do it on a plane. I can do it waiting at the doctor's office. I can do it on the subway. You know, I just handwrite over and over and over again. And I change color pens because I'm weird. But that's fun for me. Yeah, secretly 5. But the other thing I do.
Not so secretly.
I know, now everyone knows.
5 colors?
No, 1 million colors. I mean, I have 1 million colored pens, and 36 to be specific, and I choose a different color for each song, so the notebook is pretty when I look at it. But the other thing I do is I start at the back, because we almost always get the front of the tune when we start rehearsing it. Like as soon as you begin, you know, back through the years I go wandering once again, back through the seasons of my, you know, like that's right there. But as soon as I started learning that tune, I knew that. But it's somewhere in the middle that we get lost. So I start at the end, and I memorize that phrase. It's kind of what you're doing, but backwards.
Yeah, well, Tanya was just saying that with my technique, the caveat is that you're repeating the beginning of the song over and over again, but not the end.
Right.
So sometimes I will start halfway through, or I got that, let's start with verse 2.
Yeah, I start at the end and I get the last
Really smart.
phrase, and then I go back to the second to last phrase, and then I go to the third, and I repeat the whole thing until I get to the beginning.
I do that with my show too. I tend to rehearse my show and rehearse the early songs, then get tired, and then go the next.
I'm going to rehearse again. I start at the beginning, but I should have started where I left off the day before.
Just a silly question.
Anyone else want to speak to that? Jeff.
A silly question. Do any of you ever find yourself going through the lyrics on a loop at 3 a.m.?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
my God.
I'm doing it right now.
Earworms.
Can't be drugs.
Everywhere.
The only cure for the earworm is to sing from beginning to end, and only to yourself, Old Man River. Oh my God. It gets rid of anything else in your head.
I think we should do that at the end of the yeah. You've got about 5 more minutes, so if
But here's
anybody's
what I'm gonna say.
burning.
White people don't sing Old Man River out loud.
No.
Don't.
That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
But in your head, to cure the earworm, go right ahead.
We got about 5 more minutes. Ed.
This is actually still on the same question, issue of memorization. And something you said the other day, Natalie, was reminded me of the technique that so-called mnemonists use, memorizations, people who can memorize cards backwards and forwards, etc. It's called memory palaces. And so you envision something that's incredible familiar, your house. And then you place words in places, and you try to see them in those places, and you walk through the house and you see them. Or it could be the story, and I think that's what you were referring to too. You create a story, and the which of course the songs have stories. Yet usually not so much, some of them, but many.
Yes, Lisa.
I was just going to say this to you. Does anyone know what time the call is at the Red Room? Does anyone know? Because I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a 6 o'clock sound check, and then I think there's a 7-something show up in your costumes. There is no dressing room at the Red Room. So be prepared to show off your finery on the streets of Provincetown on your way to the gala tonight.
So you go to the sound check first, then come back and get dressed?
No, I would go to the sound check in your costume and be prepared to.
Or go.
So basically, you have
totally
to, it sounds like
costume,
check-in is
just
at 6
they can
o'clock,
keep
and you're gonna stay there,
check.
listen to everyone's check, and then,
Oh, no.
then there's a, then
2
there's a,
hours.
yeah, it's 2 hours.
I think we'll find out from Patricia. My intention was to sound check and then change and come back. But I did yesterday.
I
The-
did
the-
not.
Just depends on how close you live to the Red
Sound
Room.
check and
That's
run
right,
through,
yeah.
that was when I was teaching on Tuesday, so I haven't been there at all, and I haven't run my song.
A lot of us.
We'll put you in touch with Michael Maxey or
Could
something.
you, like, is there some way we can get this put out to the group of us, cause I think there's a lot of, unknowing about that.
I think what we'll do is we'll have a half hour between now and the next show. We'll address that with Patricia or Val.
Perfect.
Does anybody else want to ask a question of us?
Just that you're all fabulous.
You have 5 more minutes of our wisdom.
Well, let's go through.
28. You know what? I think we can lovingly call it a day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you
you.
all. Take all your stuff with you. There's a show in here in a half an hour, and you're all amazing, and you're all amazing.
Right.
Give it up for our moderator.
Patricia said, I'm not feeling well, moderating.
Oh, right.
I thought, okay.